Hi, welcome to Inside the Minds of Authors, the interview show dedicated to get us up close and personal on what drives authors, where they get their ideas from, and the things that keep them going. I'm DC Gomez, an indie author, and come and join me in these fun conversations.
My name is Victoria Fall Scott, and today I'm going to be reading Chapter 6 of my book, Twisted Wisdom. Skylar stood face to face with Victor, his mitts still in the air. Her face was pouring with sweat that rolled and dripped from the ends of her curls. The red cushioned gloves soaked up the sweat from her palms and rested on her knees as she panted with her head down. Anger uses too much energy. You don't need anger to fight, Victor exclaimed, pushing Skylar to her max. Victor watched her eyes close while she popped her head from side to side. Without raising her head, her eyes focused on him. The anger is the only way she knows how to fight, Zoe replied in a growl. There she is, Victor whispered. A smile of satisfaction spread across her face as she punched the mitts with extreme force. Victor stepped back as his masculine body jolted from the stream of punching, speaking over the sound of the glove meeting the mitts. Skylar needs to do this. She, never losing her flow of punches, can't. Why do you think I'm here? Zoe stepped back, still moving her feet, even though she was out of breath. Victor took a chance by taking the mitts off. Ugh, she is not a fighter. I am, Zoe growled. She needs to feel the independence of fighting for herself, Victor said. Without me, she'll live in fear. There's nothing you can do to change that, Zoe said. Acting as two separate entities will make it impossible for her to be successful in anything. Victor set the mitts on the stool on the opposite side of the ring. Zoe paced back and forth. She grabbed her robe from the stool. Some things may change. She took the gloves off and threw them down on the floor in the ring. I'll never be Skylar. She immediately leaned back, panting. Whew, Mr. V, I think I'm going to have to call it a day. Victor froze in disbelief. No problem. We have to find something a little less active to start out our real training. He just hoped he was able to get through to Zoe. Good, because boxing was not the best first choice. This is definitely going to hurt in the morning. Skylar limped inside the house. Victor loved Italian food, and Selena had the house reeking of old pasta bolognese and fresh baked garlic bread. Skylar's mouth salivated as she spotted Selena getting the dishes ready for the table. Selena zoomed past Skylar. You can wash your hands, but you have to shower after dinner. I hate serving cold food, so wash up and come eat. Skylar settled with washing her hands a little more than usual to appease her overwhelming need to shower. She washed her face and smiled when she looked in the mirror. As she turned from side to side, I am beautiful, she said, throwing the towel in her burn pile for the next morning. She rushes downstairs and starts filling her plate before she sit down. How was your first day of boxing? Selena asked. The boxing thing is too aggressive. It takes way too much energy. I could handle the cardio though. It was pretty common. Skylar stuffed her mouth with a fork full of food. I want to pursue something in social work field, she added. Oh, really? What brought this on? Surprised by the timing, the subject caught Selena off guard. Plus, she was hoping Skylar would get into something away from the social environment. I've been looking through it, and I think it would serve me well to remove people from their abusive situations so they won't have to suffer like I did. I had no one, Skylar said, wiping her mouth with her napkin. That's a good goal, and hard work and mental stability can do that and even more for you, Victor stated, not looking at Selena. I've read some of the stories online, and they can be quite disturbing, Skylar said, thinking about the different levels of abuse in the articles. Not all cases are bad, and that line of work has a lot of challenges. Selena eyed Victor, hoping he was not thinking Skylar would be a part of their business. Selena did not want Skylar to have any parts of abuse. She wanted her life to be lived full of happiness and with a family. You have a few years to make a solid decision. If your desire is still the same, we may be able to work something out for you, Victor said, confirming that Selena had been thinking. Skylar's mind was made up. She was going to work at the sanctuary as a mentor. Since she had finished, she placed her glass on the plate and excused herself from the table. You're already done? Selena looked at her own half-eaten plate. I really have to shower and study. Scholar washed her plate and fought the burn in her thighs as she climbed the stairs. After gathering fresh clothes, she turned the water on in the shower. She folded her clothes and set them on top of the towel she used earlier before she dipped her toes in the water. Testing it. Since it was perfect, she stepped in, happy to be able to wash away the sweat. A visual of her last perpetrator flashed before her eyes, and she snatched the towel from the floor, scrubbing her skin until it burned. The water hid her tears wet, and when she started to shake, she fell back, closed her eyes, and listened to the pop of her neck. Then an image of Snake crept into her vision. She could do nothing to pass before she could tear her way out of the memory. But when she finally did, she embraced the calm and peace that came over her, climbed out of the shower, and thought of never having to deal with Snake again. Downstairs, Selena poured herself a glass of wine while Victor put the dishes away that she washed. "Have you had any luck finding her?" Mother asked. "No, I'm starting to think she was not born in a hospital, and we may just have to go through the steps to have an identity created for her." He closed the upper cabinet. "I want to make sure she's going to be here, and she seems to be doing everything in her ability to stay." He leaned against the cabinet, resting his hands on the granite countertop. Selena rubbed her finger around the top of her glass. Her heart sank and her countenance showed in her face. "I still wonder if she's going to be okay, you know." Victor walked up to her, rested his hand on her shoulders. "As do I. Look at the bright side. Now we have two instead of one." She squinted at Victor. "Not funny." "Wait, so you met the other one?" "I did, and she's stronger than any 10-year-old girl should be, and she refuses to be anything other than Zoe," he replied as he smiled and shook his head at the thought. "I guess I'm a little jealous. She attacked me the day I found her in the alley, but she talks to you." "Gosh, Victor, now what do we do?" she asked, feeling like she had fallen in way over her head. He pulled her close to him. "We may just be the craziest person on the planet for this, but all we can do is what we know how to do. Show her love and hope for the best. You are truly the most amazing man on the planet, and that's why I love you so much, Mr. Victor Raphael." She kissed him softly on the lips. "I love you more."
Well, welcome everybody to our fabulous show today. I have the amazing Miss Victoria with us. That was an awesome reading. So I'm getting used to authors reading in the middle of the book. Mm-hmm. And then you have me hooked and I'm like, what is going on? And as the scene progressed, you have me more intrigued and more layers kept evolving. So tell me, what is this book about? Because you have my full attention. Give me a background. What are we doing here?
So we have Zoe. Zoe, who originally starts out in the book. And she started out, her father was actually like her pimp.
Okay.
And so this happened until she was able to get away. And so once she gets away, she gets with another family, but instead of staying Zoe, she want to feel like a completely different person. And so they allow her to do that.
So are we talking being multiple personalities in this book? You're talking, there's a lot of deep concepts in here.
Yes.
Like the layers became overwhelming. I was like, oh my God, because it got really dark and very quickly. And I was like, where are we at? So you're talking multiple personality. When you're talking child abuse, you're talking all sorts of level. Where did this story came from?
Well, ever since I would say in the 5th grade, from every friend that I've had, I usually would be friends with more people that was, what would you call them, outcast. And a lot of them, come to find out, had been going through a lot of abuse.
Okay.
Some of them had been in a position to where they was in foster care. And with them being in foster care, they were still having to deal with certain things. So it's like, even that, and then my own personality, when the fight with myself to become me. It's like
finding of yourself.
Yes. Because the biggest thing is to always put on a front.
So the book is a little bit of coming of age, mm-hmm. but at the same time is true identities coming out.
Right.
How much of you is in Zoe?
I would say Zoe represents the biggest battle that I've ever had in life, because it was one point to where I had to really get to the point to where what other people thought of me didn't matter. I did what I did, but what you have to go through in order to do with that, you have to be truthful with yourself.
Look at yourself in the mirror.
Yeah.
I
like
that.
Literally, you have to be truthful with yourself and then actually deal with things instead of burying them. And so most of when you take away everything you ever have to blame for it, you're only left with your decisions, your choices, and how things affect you.
This is a lot all at once. So tell me, who is this book for? Who's your target audience?
People that's in the position of, I would say, wanting something different.
I like that.
Like maybe it can give you another outlook on something that you have been missing.
Is it appropriate for young adults?
I believe it is.
Awesome.
Right.
What is the message of this book? We talked a little bit about being true to yourself. What is that message? What do you want people to get?
Right. And now it's really more common because I've actually worked in transitional homes. I've worked, with different girls, and I've actually, to be honest, my business, I have a nonprofit organization. It started in this book.
How? Tell us about it, because I was like, what? How did this came about? This is a huge enterprise happening here.
It's like I can give in the book, I actually give the full vision of what I would like to see my nonprofit grow into. But with just starting out, one of the biggest things that I want to be able to bring to the public eye, to parents' eyes, to even as adults, I feel like the truest form of how people truly feel is in the youth.
I like that.
The nonprofit is pretty much set up to where they can express themselves, honestly, mainly through gifts, because most of the time we don't really recognize the talents that we have until we're older, because you usually seem like people don't care.
Have you noticed? It's also the fact I realize with a lot of our youth, anything that's too natural and too easy, it can't be a talent.
Right.
So you're working on a nonprofit, you have a book. Is it a standalone? Is it part of the series? What is this?
It's actually part of a series.
What is the name of the series? I'm all curious about this. Like, come on, tell us. Give us some info.
It's the Twisted Chronicles. And the first one was Wisdom. Because basically she took the information that she received, but she still twisted it in a way to where it was her own interpretation of it.
Her own spin on things.
Right. So for one thing, is for her to feel like she was getting over her past. She never wore the same thing. So you heard me talk about the burn pal.
Yes, I got curious about that. I was like, did you mean a literally burn pal? Like she is going to burn her clothes? She
burned them every day. Her clothes, her sheets. She never wore the same clothes. She never wore the same. And they allowed her to do that. I mean, they had money. It didn't really matter to them. Okay. But Victor saw it as her form of therapy. But that's how he felt like she was coping with, getting over it. So they allowed her to do it. Gave her a little spot to do it. So it's like, it's just kind of one of those things to where...
How do you heal? It's a different form of healing.
Right.
Doctors say write a letter to somebody and then burn it. If you have the money, take the clothes and burn them. Okay, I like that. I was like, that's definitely drastic. That is definitely like burn the bridges and don't look back.
Right. And that's how she felt. So.
And this is coming from the perspective of a 10-year-old.
Yeah.
And sometimes we take for granted that a lot of our kids, and I say kids loosely, they might be small in figure, but they have lived the life that most adults can never even imagine. So.
Yes. And that's one of the biggest things that I really want to address, because I do want to bring in drama, theater, stuff like that, because a lot of parents have signs right in front of you of what's going on. But because you feel like they're too young, you won't pay attention to it. But if I listen to the youth and I put it before the public, then you have an opportunity to maybe kind of click a little bit. Wait, my child does that.
Make a program out of it. Make it something that is relatable, that people can see it.
Right.
I'm loving the fact that you have a mixed media world coming and that everything plays with each other. So tell me, where do you get your stories from? Because it sounds a lot is from real life, but where do you get them from your perspective? Where do these stories come from?
I call it the what if category.
Tell me about it. I like how you started that.
So you know how if you can walk outside and I feel like, whoo, if I had hit that rock right then, I would have went for it. My head would have scratched the ground, and you come up with this big, elaborate,
question and answers.
That's
Yes.
where my stories come from. What if this happens?
So, Twisted Wisdom. What was the what if question for this one? How did you get this one?
What if there was a way out?
I like it. It's such a complex and yet simple question.
Yeah.
So, how do you develop your characters? Tell me about that.
Usually they change names about 8 times from the beginning. I usually don't even get my title until the book has been written for a while. I'm not good with titles and names. It just have to kind of reach out to me. So as I'm writing it, it's almost like the name develops from me writing. So I might just put the boy until I figure out what the boy's name is.
How long have you been writing for?
7 years.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
So is this your first published book?
Yes.
Okay, so you have other stories in the making, you got other stuff. So you're an indie author, which I love. Might be a little biased, but still.
Hey, it's the best way to go.
It is a journey for all of us. So tell me, when did you decide to actually publish? When did you know it's time to press the button?
Actually, when I talked to you.
Oh, wow. It's always kind of scary.
It was a really long time ago. I talked to you one time, and it was when with Death in Turn.
Yes.
And I talked to you then, and you was telling me about, how to go and what to do with Amazon. And I was always scared somebody was going to take my stuff and try to make me write it, because I don't write the same. I write as I see it in my head. So it's like a movie plays. When I go to sleep, my book is still going. So I wake up, I write what I see. So that's why it's very descriptive. So that's pretty much after I finished with that one and I thought I was finished, I was like, maybe I should try publishing. And after I found out the hustle behind trying to find an agent.
It is a hustle.
I dropped it because it was like starting all over in the process. And I was like, I want to keep my message in my books. I don't want somebody else's message. So after talking to you, I was like, I'm going to do my research, and that's just what I'm going to do. So that's how I actually did it.
I love it. So was the process as intimidating as you thought?
It was very intimidating.
Why? What happened?
Because I always felt inadequate to take the next step. I always felt like I was doing something wrong, or what if they don't like it? Or, but after a while, it's really, if I start somewhere, I can keep going. But it's a lot of intimidation, insecurities, and it really has to do with the people that surround you, because everybody can support you, but you still feel alone.
What was your biggest challenge?
I would say the cover.
Why the cover?
I originally had an idea in my head that I actually wanted for the cover. It was really hard for me to find a way to relate it to someone else. If I can't draw it, it's really hard to relay because people have a tendency to give you what they want to give you. They don't really
how they see it.
Yeah. This is how I see. But no, it's not. And so you seem to be a bad person because you change it. So I did change things up, but I do think I love that one. But I do really think I'm going to leave the picture inside the book. But once the second book come out, we're going to do something a little bit more cohesive that would go between all 3 books, because it's going to be 3 of them.
So you're already thinking of the series, you're already thinking of book 2, you're already thinking of your design, production, you're thinking of all these different elements that usually is the behind the scene of an indie. This is the part that, this is the meat and potatoes of a world that most people don't understand, and kind of going, so who's your people doing it? And I am hiring people. It's okay.
Yeah.
Biggest lesson. What was your biggest lesson in this process?
My biggest lesson was learning, basically setting people in that could do certain things. Because I dealt with a few people as far as, with the editing goal, with the book covering, with the book formatting. And you finally, when you get to the point of finding the people that you're like, you know what, I can get you to do the rest of my stuff. But how many do you go through before you get to the point of finding somebody? To me, that was my biggest lesson was.
It's clicking with those people and making that village.
It is. Because otherwise, you have to really trust your gut in some things, and then you got to know sometimes your gut is going to let you down.
You only know as much as you know at that point in time.
Right.
So it is a learning process, and you're finding your rhythm, you're finding your flow.
Right.
And figuring it out what works for you. And it doesn't work for everybody else. That's usually the hard part.
That's the hard part.
When you started writing, what inspired you to do that?
The very first thing I wrote, I was trying to help a church raise money. So I was like, let me write a quick skit, because we had like 50 some youth. I was like, well, let me write a quick skit and we can get together and do a skit along with singing and stuff like that so we can raise money. Well, I started in like an 80-page notebook, and within 4 days, I had wrote up every page front and back.
That's not quick. 80 pages does not make for a quick skit. That's an entire play.
I couldn't stop. Like, I was literally, but that particular book, I wrote it. I finally typed it up, and what I found out is I watched a series that came out like years later that was almost that book verbatim.
Isn't it usually scary when your thoughts and ideas get crossed around and you're like, that was my book?
Yeah.
Like, what just happened? How did you get my book?
Yeah, it was pretty crazy. So what I did was I just tossed that one in the drawer. So maybe if I'm writing something now and I need a random idea or filler to fill into something, I'll be like, hey, give me this page out of this book.
It's never lost. Mm-mm. There's no such thing as a lost scene. You can always reuse it and remorph it.
Right.
What inspired you? So I know the fundraiser, by the way, you have a very humanitarian soul. You're always trying to help people. You're always trying to help the kids, which is beautiful. What inspires you besides that? What makes you want to say, I need to put this on paper?
Because I feel like we all have a sense of greatness in us that is way beyond what a lot of people settle for.
I love it. So tell me what is your sense of greatness? Where does that crown come from?
Well, just a little bit is, for one, I do want to open, I'm working on my youth center, which I was talking about was my nonprofit. And it's like every time I see somebody that's young, if I see them go to jail or if I pass by them and I feel that they hurt, like, I feel like if I had my stuff together, they would, that would be an opportunity.
You will have a place.
Yeah. They would. I would give them an opportunity to have an outlet. So it's like with everything that I see happening with the youth, I'm not in a corner talking about what they couldn't be with somebody. I'm in this corner working on a solution, at least to be able to offer a solution regardless if they take it or not. Like, that's my inspiration too.
That is a huge motivation. That is one of those pillars that you're going, whew.
Yeah. I feel like the weight of the world is on your shoulders. You like,
that is huge. That is actually huge, and it is very powerful, but it's also very focused. Yeah. Because you know what the end sight looks like. You know, this is what I'm working for, this is what I want, and everything you do is focused towards that.
Right.
Which gives you a very huge guiding post. Like, this is my true north.
Yeah.
And this is what we're going to do, which is beautiful.
Well, I mean, it took a while because really I've done a little bit of this, a little bit of that, because I cook. I love to cook. So what I decided is that I used to do so many things at one time to where I felt like I was going crazy every day. So finally I was like, okay, I got to break this down to a step-by-step process. So if I open a restaurant, my job is not to get rich off the restaurant. The money that's made from the restaurant is what I'm going to use to build my nonprofit. Because I know it's really hard when you stay in small towns to get the amount of support that you need to get it done. So you have to start somewhere. So I just have to build up as a little, because I like making soaps. I like anything you can find that I could possibly do. Now, I can't draw, but I can draw the heck out of some letters. That's probably it. I can add hats to them and, decorate them up, but I can't draw for anything, but every one of my kids can draw. And I'm just like, what?
Hey, you can use resources with children. I'm
right.
pretty sure I tell everybody I have a family degree in everything I do.
Right.
So if I'm working on this, you're coming with me. I take prisoners. Let's go.
Yes.
So family understands. It's like little bottom line, small little letters. You will support this mission, and we're going to do this together.
Right.
So I'm pretty sure your kids, not only are they proud of you, they're also excited to be like, okay, mom's going to rule the world. I carry the flag.
Yeah. And I think sometimes it might be a lot for them because it's just like, can you talk normal sometimes? Everything is not a lesson, Mom. I was like, well, I'm just saying, if you have downtime, I'm always trying to get them to, because I know how important it is to kind of learn the things that you like to do instead of allowing other people or other things that you listen to and do,
influence you.
Yeah. Kind of be your own. They'd be like, come on, Mom, really? But then when I hear them talking to other people, they're giving that same advice.
You can tell it's kicking in.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
They're just not going to admit it to you.
Yeah.
At no point in time, any youth is ever going to admit, A, parents are cool. 2, you know what you're talking about. Those
right.
are not going to be things they're going to be telling somebody. It's like, they're taking that to their graves.
Not going to happen.
No, but at least you can hear it when they actually speak. You're like, oh, wow, you were listening.
Okay. You think I'm asleep and I'm in the room like, did she just say okay?
She heard it.
Yeah.
She got this. So tell me, what is your definition of success?
Everything to me is success. Once I cross any milestone, that's a form of success. But I think once I get the center up and going, I'll be able to help more writers. And I get to see, because I'm into so many original things. So I get to see more writers. I get to see more original music. We have videographers. I mean, anything that you can think of that you would usually want to do in reference to a book, if you want to do small skits or anything, but you just have to work your way up. So I feel like my success would be just starting with at least one of those. Because once one start, the rest will just fall in place.
I like that your vision incorporates a place for youth that comes with everything entertainment-wise.
Right.
So you're looking at a place that kids can make music, they can make videos, they can write. They can tap into different talents that right now, usually most of our kids are focused on test taking.
Right.
So the fact that you're looking at a center to explore these visions is beautiful.
Yes. And that would be that is what I would see as success. Like, it gives me chills just even thinking about it sometimes, because I'm just like, I can already see the finished product. And if you walk into the building I have right now, you'd be like, whoa, you see a lot. But
you have a vision.
Well, we're getting there. I mean, it really means a lot. So that's my success.
It's a passion.
Yes.
And the fact that you have a building and you're working towards this is amazing. Most people have a thought and is in passing, and you ask them and it changes 10 times.
Yeah.
For the last year, every time I talk to you, this passion hasn't changed.
Yeah.
It is still the same dream, it's still the same passion, and you're still working for it.
Yeah.
So I love the fact that you are committed to this. So yes, this is going to happen.
Yes.
So I'm definitely want an invitation to the inauguration of the building.
Most definitely.
I'm excited because I was like, ooh, this is amazing. So tell me, do you have a favorite book?
I had a favorite writer.
Do tell.
Because I usually only read series. I know that might be crazy, but
no.
Gina Showalters was like one of my favorite writers.
Why?
She wrote about the Pandora's box, to where all of the demons that was held in the box, it was the angels that killed Pandora that was protecting it. Every one of them got cursed with the demon that was within it. So each book was about them, and one of them could never tell the truth. So that book was pretty interesting.
Ooh.
Yeah, it was like Lords of the Underworld or something like that, but literally it was an old bookstore that had the first 5 books of that series in there. And literally I was reading a book a day, and it was one of those.
You were addicted and you're hooked, and this is what we're going to be reading.
Like,
okay.
Hey, shh, I'm reading this. Yeah, but that was my favorite book, pretty much.
Book, series, the whole combination. So you like series. Why do you enjoy series? Because now your books is a trilogy. Why? What is exciting about series?
It's the ability to be able to capture and hold somebody's attention for that long.
So as a reader, what is your favorite category to read?
Supernatural, kind of like, maybe. I mean, I read everything. If somebody say it's good, I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt, and I'm going to try it. I mean, since I started writing, I think the only book I've read is on herbs. But that's only because, you really don't have a lot of time. You work a full-time job, you're trying to write a book, then you're trying to get other things. So it's like, I never really get that moment to sit and read anymore. So
I understand. So how do you manage your time?
The way I used to do with this one to finish it, which actually I have my time management might not be too good, because I started writing on over 23. All of them are about half of this book done right now. And then I just stopped.
Why? What happened? Besides life, what else happened?
Basically with this one, I had to literally, no matter where I was, I had to carry a notebook. If I'm typing it on a computer, it takes me a whole lot longer to write a book than if I just write it down on a piece of paper. So usually I would keep my notebook with me everywhere I go, and I had to write at least a chapter, which is 7 pages every day.
Okay, that is actually really good structure.
Yeah, and it worked for that one. And I finished it. But then when I started typing it, it took about the same amount of time to type it up as it did for me to write it. But once I started writing, I was able to fill in more so that, when it got to that point. But I had the full concept. But to me, just writing, I have to write it on a notebook.
I like the fact that you still do in handwriting.
Right.
But I also enjoy the fact that once you start transferring from your handwriting to typing it, now you're fleshing it out.
Yeah.
Did you enjoy that process?
I did, because that's when the goods come in. And because my daughter called me the other day, she's finally reading my book, and she said, she had just read the part that I read now, and she was like, I got a question. Did you feel chills when you was writing down about her changing to the other person? I was like, I did. Like, I was literally hollering. I would clap. If something was funny, I was laughing. I was about to cry on some of the cry parts. What is wrong with you? But I don't know.
If you can visualize and if you can commit to it, I think those emotions transfer into your book. Mm-hmm. And I really hope that is true, because I had those moments as I'm writing my last book and I'm sitting here crying. I was like, is that supposed to happen? Like, I know what's going to happen. Why am I crying?
Yes.
So I'm glad I'm not the only one.
Yes, it's pretty serious. And I think my kids was just like, hey, don't even bother her. Like,
she's a little busy. Leave mom alone right now. So tell me, you're working on the other 2 books already. Mm-hmm. How are those coming?
Well, so far I have 4 chapters on the 2nd book. The 3rd book, I think it's going to be really, really good. I just had to really figure out. I haven't thought of the name of it yet.
You're still not writing it, so it's okay.
Yeah.
It'll come to you.
I got the whole concept of what I want to happen, but I don't know what part, because right now I'm dealing with jealousy. So
you have very strong emotions in your books.
Yes.
It is always very intense. I was like, ooh, okay. This is an intense topic, and the way you're handling and the way you're bringing these pieces and trying to bring people into this world.
Right.
Where does it take place? Where is this book taking place?
I think I made up a place outside of New York.
That's not a bad thing. I like it.
I just made it up. I was like, you know what? I didn't even put this in a location. I think I found a location for the 2nd one. That was one of the things that I did, but it was just basically they had to be in the middle of nowhere in this one. So
you can put it in any small town or
right.
any place in the United States. So it gives people the freedom just to create their own universe.
Right.
I like the flow of it. Not bad. If you had one advice to give an up-and-coming writer, because you're in that process of, I just finished my 1st book, I'm getting ready to embark in this again, and sometimes picking up that flag and saying, I'm doing this again.
Yeah.
That's usually harder than the 1st book.
I just found that to be true.
It is. Usually it's harder, especially depending if you're getting mixed comments and mixed reviews from people.
Right.
And how do you battle those demons? Like, what would be an advice for an up-and-coming writer?
I would say be true to who you are. No matter, you can listen to advice, and, if it's something that sounds, nice, you can do it. But for the most part, if you stick true to who and what you have going, it's going to work for you because it's you.
If it resonates, I like that.
Yeah.
Because sometimes we spend too much time listening to everybody else. And where does it get us? Like, we're running around in circles and nothing's getting done.
That's what took me so long to publish. Because I was reading this and reading that, and I was telling a girl the other day, like, if you cook steak and you give me your recipe on how you cook steak, no matter how many times you give it to me, you can write down the exact measurements. I'll never do it the way you do it. Only because I know what seasonings I already work with and what I deal with. But it's like, as you listen to so many other people give you step-by-step processes that you have to go through, it throws your head off. Because if somebody bring you step 3 in a place of step 2, then you're mentally thrown off because you have basically programmed yourself to follow how this go instead of just gathering your own flow so that it can work for you. Because yeah, I had notes and notes and notes.
I remember that conversation. You're definitely a book kind of person. There was books involved. It's like, okay, that is definitely intense. And you take notes. I'll give you that. It's like, you take more notes than I do. I am impressed.
Yeah.
But you found your flow.
Right.
Now you're getting ready for book 2. Because flow, once you figured out book 1 gives you all those, I got all these pieces, but it's still overwhelming.
It is.
You know, so I found myself that it took me probably book 3 to realize what I was doing, if that makes any sense. Not trying to get you scared. You're like, what?
No, I believe you because, I mean, I'm really, and it's not that I don't know the next part. I can go and start typing now, and I already know what happened. I just paused the movie. That's it. But I wasn't as disciplined as I thought I was coming into the second book. It's like I became relaxed after publishing the first book. So it made it to where it was really hard for me to gather that discipline back up. Some things when you let go, it's like, come here, come back.
I like the fact that you brought discipline into this. So do you have to be disciplined to be in this world?
You have to be.
Okay.
If you don't commit to it, it's almost, if you're passionate. Me, if I'm passionate about something and I go every day, the less I do of what I'm passionate about, it nags me. Like, oh, you lazy.
Oh, you have your own internal clock.
Yeah,
come on now.
Nobody has to tell me, like, you being lazy, right? You've been sitting here watching this for like 2 hours. You could have done how many chapters?
Ooh.
I'd be like, shh, nobody's talking to you.
It's like, none of that. We're not talking about this right now.
Yeah. So, but
I like the fact that you don't need somebody to keep you accountability, so you know exactly where you're at. So when are you looking to release book 2?
I told myself I really want to do it within the next 6 or 7 months. It's a tall order.
I was like, we are officially committed.
It is a tall order because, as I said, I am in the process of getting a restaurant. Then the other stuff that we have going on right now. So
You have a plan.
Mm-hmm.
We got a vision. Mm-hmm. And there's a book.
Exactly.
I like this chemistry. This is officially a chemistry for like, okay, some amazing things are about to happen here.
It is. And I do, for locations on my book, and so I can feel certain things or I feel certain ways, I always put myself in that position. So if I'm supposed to go on a trip or if I'm at a particular restaurant, say in Mexico, that's where the new book is. They're in Mexico. So if I'm in Mexico, the first thing I need to do is, what restaurant am I in? So I find this restaurant, I pull up a picture of the restaurant, and I actually look at it and I get a visual like I'm sitting at the table there. So anything I describe, you're going to already think that I'm there.
I like the research behind it. I like the creating of the settings and bringing people into this world that you're creating for them to see it. I love it.
Yeah. So that's how you put, I kind of put the pictures there, but that's usually how I do for certain movements, or how I want to feel. I need a song. That's why I listen to all genres of music. It's because there's a song for everything that I ever want to feel. So I just push it.
Okay, so are you ready? You brought song into this. I was like, ooh, did you read my notes?
Uh-oh.
Because we're moving into this. You ready for this?
I'm ready.
So now we're going to move to our lightning round.
Uh-oh. Ding, 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 ding. No.
I know, you have this look. Everybody panics and their eyes get very big and like
what's next?
You have that look. It's like, oh God, where is she taking us this? This is kind of fun.
Okay.
Literally, we're going to have some fun. Don't think too much about this. First thing that comes into your mind, and we're going to keep popping. So I just got a few of them.
Okay.
So you brought music into this. Pop music or classical?
Classical.
Really?
Yes.
Favorite classical song? Anything that comes to mind? What do you prefer?
I would say Beethoven.
Yes. You definitely. I'm like, impressive. Ready? Breakfast or dinner?
Dinner.
Why?
Or breakfast for dinner.
I don't know if you can combine them. Okay, we'll take.
I'll take breakfast for dinner and dinner for breakfast. That makes my day better every day.
Ooh, sassy. So, romantic comedies or action movies?
Action.
Okay.
Yeah.
Action movies. Favorite action star?
Idris Elba.
Still back to the music.
Okay.
If you could pick one song as your own theme song for your life, what would it be?
I'd say, I don't know who sings it, but it's the Bad Mama Jamma song. She's a bad Mama Jamma. I always see myself walk into a crowd of people and I'm just radiant. That's why I like that song. It's just radiant.
If you want a theme song, that will be it.
Yeah.
I'm the person that has a nightmare that I think I'm going to get into a fight and there'll be a theme song playing and I'm going to get beat up to that. I don't know why. No. So usually if I'm always checking the crowd, like, please don't play something horrible in case I get beat up.
Okay.
That's your fear? I was like, this could happen to people. A character in a movie that best describes you.
I've been told Angela Bass, and that's what I get all the time.
Which movie are we talking about?
The one where she's always, she goes through so much, but she always comes out on top.
I think that's all of her movies.
Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much. I mean, because everybody's like, gosh, if I went through some of the stuff you went through, I'd be done.
I like the connotation. I like the image. I was like, that sounds like
I mean, yeah, she got some pretty dramatic stuff going on in them, but at the same time, that's who a lot of people have always, that's what I get most.
Okay, that's actually an awesome reference. I'm like, that's pretty badass. So, where can our listeners, where can your readers find you? Where are you available at in terms of social media? Where can we find the book? Tell us about it.
Okay, well, you can find a book on Amazon.
Okay.
And I do have the ebook and the hard copy.
Awesome.
And I did everything under Victoria Falls Scott. So Facebook, it's Victoria Falls Scott. My website, victoriafallscott.com. I just made it pretty simple to where, hey, this is her.
Pretty
That's
consistent.
where it is. Yeah.
And we can find you everywhere. People want to get a hold of you. Do you have a newsletter if people wanted to sign up for it?
I do.
Okay.
Now, I haven't started putting them out yet, but, I do need them to go ahead and start pouring in. And as soon as I get started, then they'll start getting news. Maybe a little snippet of what's coming out in the second book.
I like it. So something for everybody. Newsletter should be coming out in the next couple of months.
Right.
They can sign up through the website.
Mm-hmm.
So you have that available. You have the ebook available. So before the end of the year, crossing fingers here, book 2 should be coming out.
Yes.
So we have a lot of stuff. We're looking forward to a new restaurant. You've got foundation plans in the process. You have a lot more world domination plans and saving children than I do.
Yes. You have to have that laugh like, no, just.
I want little people going, fingers over, going, yes, let's go plan today.
Let's do this.
It's very Pinky in the Brain.
I know, that is exactly who I was picturing. I was just like, but they're always messing something up. So.
I never said it was a really good plan, but they have a plan. Let's start with the plan.
Yeah,
Step 1, there is a vision. Step 2, let's make it happen. So
yes.
I am so excited you came to us. I'm excited that you hung out with us and inside the author's minds.
Yes.
It's been an absolute pleasure. I am keeping an eye on you, making sure, where is this young lady taking us? Because you have a vision.
I do.
I love it. You have a vision, you have a plan. Any things you want to say for closing remarks?
Love y'all. Thank you.
We love you too.
Thank you for listening. And thank you for having me here. I mean, it really means a lot for someone to show you that, hey, I might be paying attention, or, it really means a lot for someone to actually ask you. So that means a lot to me. I
am glad you came. I'm glad that people have an opportunity to get to know you a little more, because I was blown away by all of your plans. And I'm like, I usually have a huge to-do list. So the fact that yours is bigger than mine, I'm highly impressed. I'm like, that's amazing. So for everybody, thank you for joining us again.